And greetings, friends. Today I want to talk to you about John the 13th chapter, verse 34, that says this. Jesus Christ told his disciples, he said, "A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another, as I have loved you, that ye also love one another." Now, a lot of people take this to mean that the Christian now, all he or she needs to do is love one another, and that we don't need to keep the Old Testament law. We have a new commandment from Christ of love, and the Old Testament law is done away. Well, is that true? Is that what Jesus Christ is telling us here in this passage, that we don't need the Old Testament law? Well, let's see what the scriptures tell us here. What about the Old Testament law? Is the Old Testament law the law of love? Well, absolutely. If you read Leviticus 19:18, Deuteronomy 10:12, and 36, you will find that God's law is love. 1 John 5:3, this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments. So the Old Testament law is love. Now the church of God knew this. When we go to Romans, the 13th chapter, verse 8, it says this, "O man, owe no man anything, but to love one another. For he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law." So loving one another is in the law. Jesus Christ says, "A new commandment I give to you, to love one another." Yet it's in the Old Testament law. It says here, "He that loveth another hath fulfilled the law." It's in the law. Notice verse 9, it says, "For this, you shall not commit adultery, kill, steal, bear false witness, you shall not covet. And if there is any other commandment, it is briefly comprehended in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself." Where do we get that from? Well, we get that from Leviticus, the 19th chapter, verse 18. It says, "You shall not avenge, nor bear any grudge against the children of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself." Loving one another is in the law of God. Notice verse 10, back in Romans, the 13th chapter, verse 10. "Love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Therefore love is the fulfilling of the law." So keeping God's law is love. And it's love one another. So why did Jesus Christ call it a new commandment? Back here in John the 13th chapter, verse 34. Well, before we get into that, in 2 John 5, verse 5, it says this, "Now I ask you, lady, not as writing unto you a new commandment, but the one which we had from the beginning, that we love one another." So it is not a new commandment. We had it from the beginning, from the Old Testament. 1 John 2:7, again, "Beloved, I am not writing a new commandment to you, but an old commandment, which you had from the beginning." The old commandment is the word which ye have heard. They have heard it. As it says in Acts, the 15th chapter, verse 21, that the church goes to the Sabbath day every single Sabbath. They go to church every single Sabbath day and listen to the message. And it says that Moses has preached to them in the synagogues every Sabbath day. So they hear this commandment. And it's from the beginning. Now that word, the beginning, is arche, and it means origin. The origin of loving one another is in the Old Testament law. So why did Jesus Christ of Nazareth call it a new commandment when it's obviously an old commandment? Well, in that passage that Jesus Christ said in John 13:34, the word new is kainos. And you can find that in Strong's 25:37. And the word kainos does not mean new in time. That would be neos. But it means newness in quality. You can read that in Trench, page 233 through 37. The quality of the commandment is new. Now, what is that quality? Well, notice what Christ says. "A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another," notice, "as I have loved you." He says the same thing here in John 15:12. "This is my commandment, that ye love one another as I have loved you." There is the difference. How did Christ love his neighbor differently from everyone else? Well, he did it without sin. That's the difference. Everyone else, when you look at the Old Testament characters, Moses loved God, kept the law, but he still sinned. David loved God, but he still sinned. He killed Uriah the Hittite. Isaiah said he was a sinner. Daniel loved God, but he sinned. He said he was giving a prayer for his sins and the sins of Israel. So they loved God and they kept the law, but they still sinned. The difference is Christ was without sin. Notice Hebrews, the 4th chapter, verse 15. He says, "For we have not an high priest," that's Jesus Christ, "which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin." So he was tempted to sin. He was in the flesh. He had the human nature, but he fought it. And he was without sin his whole life. He had such love, intense love for his neighbor, that it was new. It was a new quality in the commandment, that you love one another without sin. And that's why Jesus Christ called it a new commandment. It was newness in quality, not new in time, but a new quality to the commandment, that you love one another without sin. Notice 2 John, or 1 John rather, back to 1 John. 1 John 2:7. 1 John 2:7. Get back to this passage. It says, "Brethren, I write no new commandment unto you, but an old commandment that we had from the beginning." That's the Old Testament. "The old commandment, which is the word which ye have heard from the beginning." And again, a new commandment. Here, yet we have a new commandment. So here we have an old commandment, yet it is a new commandment. Notice, "Again, a new commandment I write unto you, which thing is true in him and in you, because darkness is past, and a true light now shineth. He that saith he is in the light, and hateth his brother, is in darkness even until now." Notice, the new commandment is a new quality to this old commandment, a new quality to this old commandment, that you love one another without sin. "He that loveth his brother abideth in the light," meaning he doesn't have any sin, "and there is none occasion of stumbling in him." He has no sin. That's the new commandment, the new quality in the old commandment. "But he that loveth his brother is in darkness. But he that hateth his brother is in darkness, and walketh in darkness, and knoweth not whither he goeth, because that darkness has blinded his eyes." So here, that is the new quality in the old commandment, that you love one another without sin. So to say that this scripture proves that God's law is done away is just another Bible misconception.